Hi, I'm Marty.
Hi, Marty.
I just love that. It's the only place in the world I know of that you can say hi and the whole room will say hi back. So, I thought about 100 ways to start this workshop today, and I just went round and round and round. And so I thought I'd just start by saying what a historical occasion this is. With that handbook, it's the fruition of years and years and years of work and thinking and sure. This is, it's, oh.
There's no battery.
It's been its own.
What?
It's on. Turn it. It's on the bottom.
Oh.
Oh, you have to talk louder, I guess.
Oh, okay. Do I have to use this thing the whole time?
To record if you don't miss it.
Oh, okay.
Actually, first of all, you're recording him in here, right?
Right,
No.
but
I don't have
Just
to.
speak
if
loudly.
this microphone allows those people to hear you. It
I'll
isn't
talk
for
loud.
you, it's
Okay,
for them.
I'll talk loud then.
Yeah, what we call eat the mic. Right?
Okay. I'm just going to talk. What I started to say is that, can you hear me? No. Okay. How about that? Is that it? Okay, I got my speaking voice. All right. You know, in 1984, when we called the convention to form ACA, it had been part of Al-Anon. And one of the major reasons we determined that we needed to form a 12-step program separate from Al-Anon, bless their hearts, was that the major piece of literature that we used was the problem, and it was not conference-approved literature. So one of my friends used to joke that the main piece of literature was put in a box and shoved under the literature table. And, you know, we had to come and it just wasn't working. And so that was why we went over to, you know, formed a 12-step program separate. And over the years, we kind of just wandered. And the thing that I want to start out with is that the focus was originally, I guess I'd like to just start by having someone read part of the problem. Let's see, who did
I have a loud voice.
Well, start where it says dependent. We were a dependent
We were
person.
dependent
She has to come
personalities.
up
Oh, okay.
by you because you have the recording.
Okay.
We were dependent personalities, terrified of abandonment, willing to do almost anything to hold on to a relationship in order not to be abandoned emotionally. Yet we kept choosing insecure relationships because they matched our childhood relationship with dysfunctional parents. More?
Yeah, to the end there.
The symptoms of the family disease of alcoholism or other dysfunction made us co-victims, those who take on the characteristics of the disease without necessarily ever taking a drink. We learned to keep our feelings down as children and kept them buried as adults. As a result of this conditioning, we often confused love with pity, tending to love those we could rescue. Even more self-defeating, we became addicted to excitement in all our affairs, preferring constant upset to workable relationships. This is a description, not an indictment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. The next to the last line, this is we were dependent, terrified of abandonment, and then finally we keep choosing addiction to excitement, and that's what our workshop is about today. And the odd thing is, in 1955, Bill W., the co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, and there's another Bill W. that many people don't know about. He wrote a letter to a friend of his, and he had been having terrible trouble with depression, and he thought he was going to be in for another bad bout of it. And he wrote to him and said, you know, I just was petrified that I'd be caught in another bout of depression. And then he started saying, but you know, I suddenly realized that what the problem was there was technical sobriety was not enough. So will you open your handouts? and the article there is The Next Frontier by Bill W. It's the second one. The second page. Yeah. And read the very first paragraph there. And I'll go ahead and read it. Is that Bill says, I think that many oldsters who put our AA booze cure to severe but successful tests still find they often lack emotional sobriety. Perhaps they will be the spearhead for the next major development in AA, the development of much more real maturity and balance, which is to say humility, in our relationship with ourselves, with our fellows, and with God. And in that one paragraph there, he completely switched everything about 12-step programs, because he said technical sobriety is not enough. And our co-founder of ACA, Tony A., in New York, do you know the history of how ACA got started? Can I see a hand if people don't know anything about it? Okay. In the late 70s, a group of kids that had been in Alateen grew up and no longer were in their teens, and they didn't have a place to go. And they didn't quite know what to do, so they just kept meeting. And they called themselves Hope for Children of Alcoholics. And they invited old-timers from AA and Al-Anon AA primarily to come speak so they could hear some program. And Tony came there, and he just loved what they were doing. And then he said, he went home, and he thought, geez, I need to write something here. And he came up with the laundry list, the list of characteristics. And in it, he said, we became addicted to excitement. Originally, he put fear in there. And he said, that's too strong. And then when it was brought out to L.A. by a fellow named Jack wrote the problem from the laundry list. And he said, and there's what you hear it there, we keep creating situations over again that matched our childhood patterns, and we became addicted to excitement in all our affairs, preferring constant upset to workable relationships. So what you see is from Bill through Tony to Jack is that they all were saying technical sobriety is not enough. You know, there's something else going on. And that's what we're going to look at today, is the inside addiction. How many people here suffer from bottle envy? I just wanted to check that out. Do you know what bottle envy is? Bottle envy is when the alcoholic in your life is getting all the attention and you wish you could have something as hot as the bottle. Well, there's bottle envy, there's pipe envy, there's straw envy. And have I missed any? Oh, my favorite is paper bag envy. You know, is there any Glue-Anon members here today? Well, I think you get the picture. Well, if you feel second fiddle and less than, let me tell you, I'm going to promote you all today to full-fledged neurotransmitter junkies. I mean, so you can hold your head up high and you can walk forth and say, I'm a full-fledged addict. And that's what we're looking at today. And some of this is going to be triggering deliberately so, because I wanted you to know that ACA issues are life and death issues. People are dying all around the world because of this stuff not controlled. Not just people that come to a nice place like this. ACAs are in the streets of Baghdad. ACAs are in the Sudan. ACAs are in South Central Los Angeles. And so we have an obligation to what we know, we're going to find out today, to carry that message and see if we can get a new level of sobriety just across the globe. And it starts right here. It doesn't come top down, it comes bottom up. It's what you do yourself and what you say to someone else. Now, what I'd like to do is now have someone read the operational statement, the thing that's down at the bottom there. Don, would you read it? Yeah.
An operational statement of the problem. This addiction to excitement can be seen as an endogenous or internal addiction to conflict, a continuously repeating cycle of alarm and collapse, or fight, flight and exhaustion. Children learn that they can pull themselves up out of depression and despair by focusing on the conflicts going on around them, in which they then internalize in symbolic form. Their world is filled with the sights and sounds of conflict that drive them until they collapse in exhaustion, only to get back up and do the same thing all over again. Children are forced to remain in this pattern of addiction in order to stay above the ever-increasing sense of demoralization they feel at being trapped in a cycle of despair, and the cycle becomes self-sustaining.
All right. Thank you very much. That's pretty much that. You know, I could tell you study that paragraph and then go home. I'm not going to, but that pretty much says it. Is that you know, the little kid in a whacked out home, and I use that. That's a technical term. So, I learned in psychology. You know, living in a whacked out home is that they look for patterns. They're pattern seekers. Like, as soon as a little baby just comes out of the, is born and can start tracking, it starts looking around going, God, what's happening here? Can I get a connection? When does mama come? When does she go away? When does the good mother come? Well, the one that does all nice things. And when does the bad mother come? The one that, And when does the good mother go away? And that's what you got, is this poor little kid is going, and the little baby doesn't have a whole lot of possibilities except hollering and crying. And so you're pretty well stuck with whatever people are going to come and hand you. And this is where the little kid in a crazy house starts looking around, and all that little kid sees is conflict. And then Jim was really afraid that a lot of people here today would not be psychologically sophisticated. So, and I tend to go into psychobabble, or so I've been told. So is there anybody fluent in psychobabble here? Good? Oh, we got one. Come on, this is a room full of ACAs. I know there's psychobabble interpreters here. All right. Well, look, if you're having trouble understanding what I say, just raise your hand and the translators will come over. And have I just created an alcoholic home here? One of you saying, I need help. Oh, don't worry, I'll come rescue you. And the rest say, get the hell out of my way. What are you doing here? And you can always point up to me and say, oh, it's all his fault if he was only clear enough. Anyway, I don't think but Jim was worried that you might not know what I was talking about. But symbolic means here is that dreams, everybody knows about dream interpretations. And that's what I mean, is the little kid can't face it straight up. And that's primarily what our problem is. If you want to know at the base of it, our problem is that we've come to believe that we can't face life straight up. And we'll look at anything and everything not to have to sit. And so we get symbols, stand-ins. And that's what a dream is that, you have a long trip, you go to bed, and you're fighting the car over and over again. And you don't, in the middle of the night, you don't know what you're doing. And that's what all the psychoanalysis was about, was trying to tell people that, your dreams is this and that. But little kids start to use these conflicts to avoid. Is they look at these things and go, and so I'd like to start here by asking you not to be aware of your tongue today for the rest of the workshop. Okay? Thank you. And I'll check. Okay. Now, you got that. Now, nobody's thinking about their right now, are they? No, I didn't think so. You're gonna. By the end of this workshop, you're gonna be wishing I hadn't told you to do that. But there's a purpose to it, and I'd like to start off by asking you to get up and do an exercise. And if you have a doctor's permission not to, you don't have to take one. Okay. Oh, good. Oh, the whole room is there. Very good. All right. I'd like to have you close your eyes, tense your stomach muscles, hunch your shoulders up by your ear. Okay, and not breathe. And we're going to do our 7 times tables. And we're going to do this for half an hour. Okay, go ahead and sit down. I don't want to lose anybody here. Yeah. Okay. What I wanted you to do was, would you notice what your body was doing there? That's what we're going to be talking about today. And Angel, well, first of all, no, before we do that, Jim, could we have our first slide there? Okay. I know you've taken psychology, or if you haven't, you read every book in the self-help section. You've probably come across this. This is a classic thing in intro psychology, and what it is you can see either a vase or 2 faces looking at each other, and it depends on what you're focusing on, and that's called background to foreground. Like if you focus on one thing at a time, we can only look at one thing at a time. Even multitaskers have got to admit in the end they're switching real fast from one thing to another. You can't, whatever you're pulling up to attend to, everything else has to fade into the background. That's just the way it works. And so this thing will flip-flop back and forth depending on what you look as the background, and the other thing will pop up, the 2 faces of the vase. Can we have the next one, Jim? And the same thing with the stairs. Do you see that? They'll flip. Okay. What's that? Oh, they're either going upside down or down.
Oh, okay.
You can see that?
Yeah.
Maybe you can't. And if you can't, boy, you're a prime example of somebody who's so externally located it's ridiculous. We'll get to that. It ought to be flipping on you. But anyway, can we go back to the first one? That's the easier one. I'm not gonna. The point I'm trying to get here is that this is what essentially we do as children, is that we will latch on to anything other than the violence and the conflict and the craziness. And we will hold on to, boy, some people will look at those 2, they will never see that vase. They will see those faces all the time, or they will never see the faces. I mean, it'll just go, they're going to latch on to something, and that they'll hold on to it. Okay, let's have number 3 there. These are the barriers to recovery. And the first one is inertia. You're just frozen, you can't move, and there you go. And number 2, Jim? Fear. Ignorance. Now there's 2 kinds of ignorance. There's the ignorance that you just don't know, you don't have the information, and that can be replaced by, people can tell you the information, you say, oh, thank you, I didn't know that. There's another kind of ignorance. I don't know it, I don't want to know, I'm ignorant and I'm proud of it. That's a hard one. And the last one. Will. Boy, the big book talks about self-will run riot. And if you can't muster up the willingness to break through the inertia, face the fear, and let go of the arrogance, and get the information you need to reduce the ignorance, you're going to have a heck of a time. And those are what we're going to be looking at today, but I just want you to keep that in mind as we move through it today. Okay. Can we have the next one, Dan? This is what we're talking about today, essentially, is that if you push a system hard enough and long enough, or hard enough all at once, it will break or break down. And I don't think that we, as little kids, we don't know that we're being pushed to the breaking point over and over and over again. And you can only, you can, like a car, you can only flatline that thing or redline that thing so long before something breaks. And hang on a second here. I want to check something. I don't like computers, but I got one here that I just want to see something. Oh, you can't hear. Okay, can you hang on while I check something here on this? Oh, darn. What the heck? This thing's not working. Does anybody know why?
Well, you're hitting it with a hammer.
No, I'm not.
Push it, Marty. Yeah, you are. You're hitting it with a hammer.
No. Any key. Thank you. Well, yes, I did hit it with a hammer. What I just demonstrated to you today is two things: trauma and denial. There you go. If you put a child, thank you. If you put a child in there in place of a system, I just use system, and that was all at once, or it can happen through time. And in either case, it will break or break down. Okay. Now, as we knew from our scrunching there, that we didn't do the 7 times table, but a compressed body hurts, and that the good news is we don't have to hurt anymore. The not so good news, or the bad news, is decompression is scary. So we're going to put these things up there on the easel. I want you to keep this in mind the whole time as we go through it. And I can take away this dead computer now. How many wanted to do that? I thought so. I don't even bother using a computer. Look, it's still standing there.
For a $2 donation to the WSO, you can hit it after the work.
There you go. Okay. Let me get going here. Okay. Can we have the next one, Jim? This is what we're talking. This is what we're going to be looking at today. Is that compression, the hunched body, the scared child, the frightened little kid. Decompression, which is basically recovery, and liberation. Can we go from this to this? And I have to tell you that I'm not idly telling you this stuff. I put my body. I was my own, two-legged lab rat, so I would never ask you to do any of this stuff that I haven't done. And personally, I came from a home that was just so violent and insane that there's no hope. There's no hope in trying to describe it. And it took me years to figure out how to. I still get upset and nervous, and I'm nervous up here right now. But years ago when I'd lecture, I was so walled off that I could get up in front of 700, 800 people and not even blink. Now that I feel. Now, it scares me because I say, "Oh my God, look at all these people out there." My gestalt is, the vase in the face are flipping, and I get conscious, and I had real bad body tension and body pain, and I worked through it, and so to a good extent, and that's what I want to let you know. It is possible to do. Let's see here. Can we have the next one, Jim? Okay, so that we know what we're talking about here is that I'm going to define trauma for you. Everybody's heard of post-traumatic stress disorder, right, these days? Well, I wanted to let you know that that wasn't an easy thing to get in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. And the guys came back from Vietnam, and nobody wanted to hear about it. As you probably well know, the history of that era. I was drafted in 1969, and you know, I had, yeah.
I'm sorry, but the microphone is coming in and out.
Oh, can you hear me now? There you go. Okay. Okay, I got it. Yeah. And I was drafted in 1969, and I had, you know, when I had hair, it was down to here, and they had just burned down the ROTC building on campus, or tried to, and you know, everybody's walking up and down, hell no, we won't go. And then I got my draft physical, and I passed it. And I said, my God, I can't hear, you know, I can't see out of one eye because I've been blind all my life, and I can't hear out of this ear. I had an accident. And they said, well, you can hear and see out of the other side, can't you? You got me there, you know. That was good enough. So 3 months later, you know, I'm looking up at the sky, and one thing is, when I get nervous, I perspire. So if you see that, I'm frightened a little bit, but not a whole lot. So don't worry about it. But I want to tell you about that. 3 months later, I was in the U.S. Army, and you know, they were saying, "What's the spirit of the bayonet?" And you're supposed to jab the bayonet up in the air and yell, "Kill, kill, kill." You know, I got it. It wasn't all that much different than the home I was from. It's true. I mean, you know, part of me just said, "Oh man, at home, I know what to do here." But at any rate, after the Vietnam, you know, the guys were coming back, and nobody wanted to hear about the stuff, and that they were traumatized. And some vets came back and got their PhDs, got their doctorates, and they started lobbying the American Psychiatric Association to include post-traumatic stress disorder in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. And the group was Vietnam Veterans Working Group and the Forgotten Warrior Project, and they didn't want to. The APA did not want to include that in the 1980 version of this thing, and they said absolutely not. It's going to go in there, and they lobbied like crazy, and it got put in there. And then in 1980, of course, it went crazy after it got in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. Everybody started saying, "Oh my God, that happens in rape cases. That happens here. It happens in national disasters." I mean, they opened the floodgate, and by God, ACA came in there and figured it out that that's what's going on. You know, the battlefield, the home. You know, terrorism begins in the home. That's just the long and short of it. I mean, it's not all that difficult to figure out. And so I define trauma so that we can think about what we're doing. It's the maximum arousal of the fight or flight system. It can't get any higher. A little kid cannot be more scared no matter what you're doing to him or her. Trauma is when your nervous system goes to the top by pain or the threat of pain. And so if you can look back in your life, and now you've got something to start to count. How many times in my home was my nervous system raised to the roof and couldn't get any higher, and I was scared out of my mind or in pain? And then you can just start counting them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10,000, 20,000, whatever. And can I have the next one, Jim? And the opposite of trauma is shock. And shock is not hard to define. What it is that the blood vessels open so wide that the blood drains out of the brain, and you faint and you go unconscious. So because you can't push a nervous system forever, you know, over here, you can't push it forever. Finally, the body says, that's it, and just shuts it off, and you go into shock. So the other thing you need to know and think about in your own life, how many times did I not be able to stand that nervous system being up at the top, and how many times did I go unconscious? And a middle ground of unconsciousness is shockiness. And fainting is a form of shock. It's the brain stem, the back of the brain says, whatever you got going ain't working, folks, or you know, and we'll throw the circuit breaker and down you go. It doesn't ask the cortex, you know, the upper brain with all our great thinking. It doesn't say, gee, that's good. Let me buy you some more time here to be an idiot. It just says no, you know, and down you go. So what we do is we get used to struggling to stay upright. And most of our life, after we've been traumatized, is an effort to stagger around and not drop down. Can I have the next one? And here you go. This is shock in action. This is what you see. This is where you know the blood's drained out of the brain. And that guy in the middle there, what he's trying to do is just put enough volume back in. He's just trying to run an IV bottle just to replace the blood. And, you know, they don't even try to replace blood sometimes. They just try to get volume in there. Just normal saline solution will do it. And they're trying to keep that guy from, you know, from dying. And when the blood's draining out from a wound, it's easy to see, oh, well, shoot, the blood's going out. The same thing happens in emotional shock, though, is that the blood vessels will widen, and there's no oomph to it, and it'll just drain on out, and down you go. So we're the equivalent of these guys. Many, many times in the home, we're running around at this level. Okay, John. And here's more psychobabble. Are our translators ready? Okay. Paul Tillich talked about ontological security. Ontological means being, basic security. So now you got a new word if you didn't know what it was before, and you can go impress people. But Tillich talked about ontological insecurity and the big scope here. Ultimate condemnation. We all know. How many Catholic folks? Okay, you know ultimate condemnation. That's what he's talking about there. Am I going to hell, basically? All right, next one. Ultimate meaninglessness. Is this all it is? What's the meaning of life? You know, the whole big thing. And the next one. And ultimate annihilation. Are we like in Star Trek and we get beamed up and demolecularized halfway there, and as we float around as molecules for the rest of our life? And so those are the big three of how most people think about ontological security. And this one, a fellow named R.D. Lang, he was a radical psychiatrist, they called him in the 60s. I guess he was radical because he took acid, but I don't know. But he's a smart guy, too. And chaotic nonentity, he said, Paul, you know, talking to Tillich, he said, those are good things, and those that's what people worry about. But there's another one that's more immediate. It's like when our false self, our synthetic self, we don't have a connection to that, and we don't have a connection to anyone else. And he said that ends in an end state of chaotic nonentity where you feel disconnected to yourself and everybody else. And when I first read about that, his description of it, I realized he's talking about somebody going into shock. You know, they're just spacing out and they're dropping out, and they have no connection to anyone else. And so that's the ontological insecurity we're talking about today. Not these big theme things, but it's about, can I keep upright and running? Can this little kid just keep that blood pumping to the head? And so you can think and you can operate. Okay. And this is Maslow's. Does everybody know Maslow's hierarchy? Yeah. Okay. Basically, you can't do belief, self-actualization, love, esteem, safety if you don't have your physical needs met. You got to have food, clothing, and shelter before you can worry about those other things. Well, I'm adding a new one on the bottom, circulatory sufficiency. We got to have that blood pumping up. You know, we got to be not going into shock, essentially. And so that's a new layer. If we don't have a circulatory sufficiency, the heck with the rest of it. because we're going to be dead. Okay. Yeah, this one, folks, get ready. Again, you can look at this one, and I can say, don't do this, and go home. Anyway, this is a fellow that did research. It's self-explanatory. You'll get it. Tronic.
It's the emotional dialogue between parent and child which enables the infant to begin to control its emotions, and at the same time lets the parents know how much stimulation the baby can handle.
What she's doing is she comes in really close. And so there's all this stimulation now coming from the outside. Now, in a way, that gets his attention. But at the same time, again, he has to be able to deal with that. So what he starts to do, he decreases the stimulation. He looks away, helps to get himself back under control. And then he can come back and now re-engage with the mother. She does that hand movement. She smiles. He says, oh, I need a little break again. So he disengages. And then he smiles, and she comes back in, so that they're really in sync with one another. But if they do get out of sync, he knows that if he then smiles, that she'll come back. And what you're seeing is almost a perfect dance between them.
After studying hundreds of infants and mothers, Tronic became convinced that this dance between parent and child is characteristic of most normal interactions. He believes this wordless dialogue initiates a bond of mutual expectation and trust. But what happens if that bond of expectations is interrupted?
And the procedure that we thought about was to ask the mothers to not respond to what the infants were doing. He looks at her. He smiles. Big, full smile. Realizes right there that she's not doing what he expects. So what he does now is something we saw him doing in the normal interaction. He looks away. He disengages. He's saying, something's wrong. I'm getting a little upset. This isn't exactly right. So I'll look over here. Right now he's saying, this doesn't feel real good. And I'm going to try again. And looking at my hands is a way, I'll calm down a little. It's kind of self-comforting. It comes back here, looks at her, but there's no smile. There you see him drool. And this is a baby who wasn't drooling before, didn't have any of the signs of even losing a little bodily control. He starts tonguing, another sign of being upset, and now he's hiccuping. And his whole body, if you will, is getting, to some extent, unregulated.
If this response occurs in the laboratory, what happens when infants are emotionally deprived over long periods of time? Tronic discovered similar kinds of behavior in the babies of chronically depressed mothers.
The infants of depressed mothers have been experiencing this kind of interaction on a regular basis and develop a pattern of being disengaged from their mothers.
Tronic's findings about the role of strong emotional ties in the life of the baby echo the research of psychiatrist Renee Spitz in the 1940s. Capturing a much more extreme situation, Spitz filmed infants who were institutionalized when their mothers were jailed. Many of the children he studied became apathetic, cried continuously, and lost weight. Their natural resistance was lowered, and some died. Dr. Robert Emdy, an infant researcher at the University of Colorado Medical School, was a student of Spitz.
Renee Spitz really shocked the world with very painful, dramatic pictures of children who looked so painfully sad and devastated. And although their physical needs were being attended to, they lacked the emotional availability of caregivers. These infants looked horrifically sad. In a strict analogy to grief in an older child or adult, infants also can be grieved. and people couldn't bear to look at those films. It's very hard to look at them today. Some of the extreme situations may look very unusual and abnormal, and you might say, well, that doesn't exist today. Unfortunately, these awful, pained, emotionally starved expressions are seen today. There is an epidemic of child abuse and neglect, and it's a very serious problem. And in fact, when we see this expression, we teach clinicians to explore further, because intervention and help needs to be on the way.
These films presented persuasive evidence that a strong tie with a caring adult is crucial to the infant's emotional and physical well-being.
You see, it's not unusual. We just, sorry. It's not unusual. We just stop looking at it. And you notice what he says, Dr. Embry says, we teach clinicians to look for that look. And we've got great masks that we put in front of the look. I'm sorry, I know that it's hard for some of you. This is terrible stuff. This is the essence of denial. The culture denies it. We're taught to deny it. Can't deny that. These are upscale women and their babies. You see how fragile that, you know, that push, that they didn't push them at all. They just looked away, and the kids started breaking down. And so most of our lives coming from, you know, these kinds of homes is we structure up and try to stay away from falling back into that. And take out your handout again. And to the Bell W article again. What's next, Jim? These are Romanian orphans. It's just more. I think probably at this point we don't need to see that. Yeah. Anyway, what I'd like you to do, though, is, well, I guess that I want to show you something here. Again, the psychobabble people, get ready. This is supposed to be a normal distribution. That's a great many things follow a normal distribution, a bell-shaped curve, like the height of people in this room. Probably a lot of it would just group around the middle, and then you'd be shorter people and taller people. And they have a way of dividing this thing up. They're just normal divisions. And plus or minus 34% from the middle there, that takes in 68% of the population. And then, of course, out here it gets less and less and less. So you can see a big group of people are in the middle. And a fellow named Fromm, Eric Fromm, wrote about what he called the pathology of normalcy. And Fromm said that he had no doubt, and this is back in the 60s or 70s, when he said he had no doubt that if the movies and TVs and radios and newspapers ceased to function for 3 weeks, that there'd be tons of nervous breakdowns. And so what we see here with Tronick and Spitz is that, and Fromm called this a pathology of normalcy. What he said, that most people think that maladjustment or mental illness is just how many sick people there are in a society. He said a lot of people don't think about the possibility that the culture itself may be sick. And so the statistical normal, you know, around the middle there, is statistically crazy people. Further that way, really crazy. Further this way, maybe some sane folks. We probably exist in a pathology of normalcy because alcoholism is the primary model for social arrangement. And so we're going to try to get over here under the tail this way, towards sanity. And, first of all, I'd just like to check. Nobody's thinking about their, right now, are they? I didn't think so. Okay, good. Let's see. Okay, Jim. I told you the definition of trauma, to the top. Can't get any higher by pain or the threat of pain. This is the first way that we become traumatized. We actually get hit. We actually get something happen to us. And that's the first way. That's the class 1. I'm just making these up, but for division. But this is a class 1 trauma. Okay. The other one is witnessing or hearing traumatic events. And I don't think people think about this, but if you're a little kid in a house, and the old lady and the old man are wailing and carrying on, and you don't know if they're dead for all intents and purposes after the bottles are thrown or even if there's nothing, if they're just if they're just silent and just glaring at each other, and you're and that could raise your nervous as a little child, as you saw with Tronick's kids there and Spitz's kids. That could raise your nervous system. You could be traumatized by that event. Okay, next one. And this one we know about, people walking up, the firefighters or the soldiers. If somebody comes to the door and tells someone about somebody got killed, and they faint, they pass out. And that's an adult. How many times do children watch this stuff and have somebody, we're going across country now and we're leaving so-and-so behind and pulling you out of school, but don't worry, it'll be okay where we go. Who knows what that's doing to that little kid? And that could be trauma. Okay. And of course your movies, your video games, the representations. So folks, we got real possibilities all the time as little bitty kids. And okay, can I have the next one, Jeff? So this is the question that children wind up asking themselves in this ontological way we're talking about, this basic question. Can I trust those on whom I depend for survival to control my external and internal environment so that I am and remain safe and secure? What the little kid's asking, can I trust the people around me who are taking care of me or not taking care of me to at least keep me up and running so I don't go into shock? So I don't wind up like a Tronick baby or a Spitz baby all the time. And then, if the answer is no, the little kid says, geez, I can't trust anybody, or a highly conditional yes, only if you really jump hoops and you really get with the program, then that little kid is screwed, essentially. And then you got to have to come up with some way to deny, to push it away, to not think about it, whatever you can do. I know that how about let's hear any reactions, any thoughts. I know that was heavy stuff we went through with the Tronick. Yeah.
My reaction to the video clip that got me was I wanted them to stop.
Yeah.
I wanted them to stop. I wanted them to take care of the children.
Absolutely.
Doing the clinical stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Like the movie part of the clip. I flip back to my see when my mother left me in the hospital in the crib, and I stood there crying, watching her.
There you go. That's a big one. It sure is. Uh-huh.
My reaction was, thank God for split personalities.
There you go. That's no joke. That's no joke. That's one. Oh, okay, sure. I'm supposed to repeat the question so we can get it on the tape. Yeah, go ahead.
My response was, I want to be well so that I can go to these hospitals and be with the babies
just be with people and try to help them out.
Uh-huh. So the response was she wanted to make that stop.
My response is I work with children. I've been in daycare. I've owned big centers for a long, long time with babies, and this stuff knows no boundaries. I work for executives, top-level executives of big CEO companies and all, and that kind of neglect happens across the board because of, not educated parents. I really believe that corporate America at this point has done what they set out to do. They've almost annihilated at that level the mothering spirit.
Yeah, okay, they pretty much gone away. Pretty much what you said was that this knows no boundaries, is that, it's way down at the bottom, way at the top of the socioeconomic, it happens all over the place. Yeah.
My response is, one of my elder sisters used to faint almost every day of her life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
My response was, I really don't need anybody.
There you go. Well, bless your heart. Yeah, I tried that one. It doesn't work. But, we give it a hell of a shot, I'm telling you, muscle up and there you go. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, you going to have the next one, Jim? This one we're going to get into some nitty-gritty about how this actually happens in the home. And our brothers and sisters in the psych labs, bless their hearts, you can see from the experiments they do where their heads are at. Anyway, the first one, Jim. These are the 3 P's we're talking about: paralysis, perseveration, and pathological attraction. Okay. This first one, this is a good one. This is Martin Seligman. It's a classic. That's a dog. That's an electrified grid. And there's a little fence that the dog can easily get over, can hop over it. So what they did was they shocked one side. The dog jumped over on the other side and got away from the shock. Hooray, smart dog. They're not stupid. What he did was he shocked the other side, so they jumped back. And of course, what do you think the third possibility was? Shock both sides. Oh, God. And the dog sprawled out and wouldn't move. And they call that learned helplessness. Became paralyzed. And the kicker about that experiment was that when they got through doing it and they opened, they unshocked the one side, they had to drag the dog over 100 times, even though it took 25 times for him to learn to sprawl out. It took 100 times of dragging the dog over for them to start to escape again, for the dog to on his own. And so that's paralysis. Okay. Well, we're going to have to take a break while the tape gets. Let's just you just talk. Go ahead.
Can we see the prior screen, the 3 Ps?
Okay. Can you back up, Jim? Well, you see that and you start to salivate because here comes food, and then switch it over to this. Is that don't? And there's no food coming. And then he switched it so the dog knew that now this. You see that up on the screen. Start to salivate, and that won't work anymore. Well, what they did is they kept making that more and more like a circle till finally the dog could barely tell the difference, and the dog went crazy. Well, the dog went nuts because he couldn't tell the difference between, when it got so close. And another thing, experimentally induced neuroses, is rats don't like to jump in air. They hate it. They like to scurry. And so what they did is they forced these rats to jump off a stand over onto a ledge where there's an X door and an O door. And if you hit the X door, they'd fall and be safe. If they hit the O door, it was nailed shut and they'd fall into a net. And the rats just hated having to fall into the net. So they switched it, and then the rat figured out pretty fast, oh, now the O door is the one that will fall down. Well, again, what they do? They nail both doors shut. And, the rat went crazy. Okay. Good. This one. This one is, does everybody know who this is? Yeah. Patty Hearst, yeah. This is the Stockholm Syndrome. It's where you start to, these folks were taken captive in a bank holdup in Sweden. And by the end of the time when they were rescued, one woman wanted to be engaged to the guy. They wouldn't say anything bad about their captors. And that's called and here's the most graphic one. She got, Patty Hearst was an heiress, the Hearst fortune. She got kidnapped, and then 3 months later, or however many it was, here she is, Tanya. You're all set. What went on between her kidnapping and Tanya, God only knows. But what it comes down to is that's the pathological attraction. And it's based on the fact that we look for any kindness from our abuser, any little indication that they're going to treat us okay. And the other is the inescapability of there's nowhere to go. They have power of life and death over you. And so your mind flips, and it's called a counterphobic attachment. Yeah.
I read about it at the time. What she said about it, she said she was in a closet, and she finally realized that no one was going to come and rescue her, and so she was going to have to figure out how to do it herself.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. That was. She said that finally she realized there was no help coming, and that's what we do as children when there's no one to talk to and there's no help coming. We'll approach the people that are causing us to. We have no other choice. We can't survive on our own, and so that's the pathological attraction. Okay. And this one, this is a classic. The rats were taught were taught to fight each other so that the electricity would be turned off. When they start to fight each other, they turn the grid off. I mean, my God Almighty! I mean, they were, at first they'd accidentally bump into each other, and then they'd start throwing punches, and they kept going with it until finally they'd get up and slug each other, and then they turned the shock off. Well, they took the one right out and put a little celluloid doll in there. That's not a real baby. And guess what the rat did? Anybody, hey, what the hell? I'll hit on anybody to turn the shock off. So you can draw your own conclusions there. Okay. All right. Workshop time. Go ahead. Oh my God! I stunned you all into silence. No questions? I'm sure. What?
We're waiting for the electric.
Oh, we're waiting for the electric. No, it's not coming. Okay. And this is the kicker. This is why we're afraid to let go of the past. Is that the next one? Oh, back it up then. We see, here's the thing, is that we can't stand to remember the stuff, but we can't afford to forget it, because it's what we had to do to stay safe. So what we do at it is that we take little peeks at it, and that's what a flashback is. You heard about flashbacks. It's that we don't want to be facing the trauma all the time, but if need be, we need some reminders of how, what it was to stay safe, so we look back at this. And yeah.
What about this person may need to recreate that since I'm no longer in my childhood? Why do I need to do that?
That's the addiction. That's what we're going to be getting to. Is that why do we keep recreating this stuff even in Okay.
Addicted to excitement.
Yeah, that's the addiction to the excitement. Yeah.
What do you think of someone who's, I was watching a program yesterday, it was Oprah about, and it was a young woman who was interviewed from prison. At 15, she stabbed her baby and threw it, put it in a bag and threw it in the water, and she's serving 6 years in prison because of that, and she was crying that every minute of her life she thinks about what she did. And Oprah was said, well, you're not your past, you're your future, and you're not your past. And that really didn't set well with me. And I'm wondering what your comment would be about that. We are our past. We cannot forget it. But it's not something that we need. There is the future at the same time, and the present.
The future doesn't exist for us, and the present is real crazy. If we're running from our, if we try to outrun our past, it winds up running you. That's essentially what happens.
So if someone says to you, "You're not your past," then
You are your past.
you are.
Until you're not. You are your past until you're not. I mean, that's basically it. Okay.
How would you define letting go of your past? Is that something we hear that a lot? Is kind of it almost becomes a cliche. But what does that really mean?
What that really means is making it conscious. Everything that happened to us is down in the memory banks, and the problem is that this. Remember the face in the vases, and we are looking so hard at everything but our past in order not to remember the past, and that's why we can't get it up and let go of it. That's what the inventory is about. You see. But we will do anything. Tongue? Who's thinking about their tongue? Or who's not thinking about it? What that point is that just in a few seconds, I conditioned you that I just raise my hand and say, what about your... Everybody in the room says, well, I'm not thinking about my tongue, but of course you are. And you walked in here this morning, you weren't going to stop thinking about your tongue. But how many of those can we can put 1,000 of those things together not to look at the past. And that's exactly what happens. Is my good God Almighty, most of an inventory is finding out what the heck is nothing to do with the past, but it's distractors. And that's, go ahead. And here's some stuff you're going to have to know. The disease concept, we all hear about the disease concept, and most of the time we think about infections, and that's been the problem throughout the addiction history in the field, is that you don't go into a bar and order a bottle of botulism bonded in bond, And we're not infected in that sense. We don't have a disease, but we definitely have a disease. And so what we're looking at is the fact that really this is stuff that just happened to us, and we're trying to outrun it. And that's really what so we're diseased, but you're not going to go find an ACA infection in there, that you take a pill and make it go away. Ain't going to happen. And let's see the black line there. What we're really talking about is injury damage. I mean, we're damaged from all of that pressure and fighting and everything, and that's really what we're talking about when we say diseased. Our bodies are all beat up inside. Okay, disorder. And what we're really talking about is a disorder, is that the body reacts absolutely correctly to being abused. It's not a disorder. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's just not supposed to be putting up with it, that's all. And we're not supposed to be overriding it. And so, go ahead. And so what we're left with is an eternal futility, trying to just get better, and we can't understand why, and what's wrong. Okay. Are there any questions? Yeah.
I think what you're saying with the reenactment or the recreation of what we do as adults has roots in the childhood because it's normal or feels normal, even though it's painful or hurtful or creates isolation for me.
Yes.
I do it because I'm hooked on the show of reenactment because it's normalcy and what I perceive as normal.
That's right. Yeah. We can't think of anything else to do except what we did as kids.
So I'm driven by fear to reenact.
Yes.
Knowing that I don't want to do it and do it.
But the problem is that when we keep doing the same thing over and over again, we keep getting traumatized over and over again. It's just a god-awful situation. We can't really, the definition of insanity is that we keep doing the same thing over and over again, expect a different outcome. What we need to get to is where we actually do something different and get a different outcome. Okay.
There it is.
And that internal deformity, see, this is what, Angel, can you flip these things around? I want to show you something here. These are charts of the body, and every muscle, when it's been contracted for a long time, can build up a little knot that's filled with acid, and they're called trigger points. And the kicker here is that this trigger point here, right at the back of the neck, where it's hurting is up here, at the top of the head. So if you didn't know that the pain was coming from back here, you'd go into the doctor and say, the top of my head hurts. And the doctor would say, well, put an ice bag up on top of it. Well, it won't fix it because it's hurting down here. And the same thing, all of these things here, for instance, is the side of the neck. All these little things in there, it hurts over here. Your face is hurting, you don't even know it's coming from over here. So figure every one of those trigger points throughout the body. If they were all hurting at the same time, you would be so amassed in pain you couldn't see straight. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Yeah.
Do you feel that the inventory is a way to remember things that perhaps you don't remember anymore? Meaning the issue of reliving things from your past that you don't consciously remember or consciously know happened. And is there a way to get those memories to surface so that you can understand them? Is the inventory part of that?
Yes, that's what we're going to talk about. Bill W., to get back to Bill, years later he wrote a letter where he talked about a new inventory, a new level of inventory, and he called it a psychic damage inventory of actual things that happened. He said shame and inferiority. And he said we need to broaden the AA inventory, and we need to broaden it to the body and the mind, how we're damaged. And he said, so it can be relived in the mind and their power reduced. He was way ahead of his time. And that's the kind of inventory we need to do. Yeah.
And you learn to live with pain and not be in paralysis.
Yes.
In fact, it feels like a friend at the time.
Yes. What it is that. Go ahead, Jim. Can you say that? This is how we learn to live with paralysis. Yo, Adrian, I did it. Did what? Well, I survived 15 rounds of getting slugged. Well, hooray for you. And okay. And here's the other one. We don't want to know about the feelings inside. We don't want to know about we don't want to see the look in the eye that Dr. Embry was talking about. Yes.
Sometimes you talked about the inventory. Since I went through that, and sometimes when I talk, I get real nervous.
Yeah.
I just gotta relax, God.
Well, there you go. Actually, you're doing a good job for us here today by showing us this guy. You know, what's your name?
Will.
Will is showing us exactly how you move through the inventory. He's telling us how he feels. He's telling us he's nervous. And bless your heart. Go ahead. You're doing fine.
Okay.
Well, how about I just see if I can see what you're saying there. You're trying to get. You're talking about the inventory at a different level then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meetings,
yeah. Okay.
Studying things
Yeah.
and
Thank you.
Work with a sponsor.
Good.
It's helping.
These are other ways that we harden up. The compressed body. You see. This is we start out with nervousness. These are orders of discontrol. As we start, like the Tronic's baby starts to fall apart. As we get older, these are the look that we're looking at. These are the reminders of that. We're nervous, anxious, and tense. Okay. Hysterical. Yeah, it gets amped up a little more. Sometimes when people just get pushed down too long, it comes up naked aggression, and we know about naked aggression. It's just violence. It comes out. You either get bursts of violence or simmer in a long time and then it explodes. Okay. And then of course you go nuts. And in the end you give up and die. So, yes.
Can you be re-traumatized by living with somebody that's PTSD?
Yes. The question is, can you be re-traumatized? That's essentially how we stay stoned. That's what emotional intoxication is. Go ahead.
I think the saying misery loves company.
Yes. Oh, you better believe it. Go ahead, Jim. Go to the next one now. Yeah. Let's go to the next slide.
Can I read it first?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. These are you collapsing. You're going downhill. First of all, you're just spaced out. Then you're walking around in shock, but you're just upright. Then you get into a stupor. We can actually be in an emotional stupor and a blackout. They don't have this yet, but I can foresee the time where people are stopped from when they're driving, and somebody could say, you're 5 times over the limit for adrenaline. Okay, go ahead. And these are the inner chemicals. This is what. Hang on. Well, okay. This is what we play inside. We can get high. We have our inside chemicals that we can get loaded on. Our uppers. Go ahead. We can get our down. We got internal downers. We got painkillers. And this is how we do it through the re-traumatization. We got chemicals inside that regulate our thinking. So if you focus on gee, I'm worried about this today, or a phobia or an obsession, you can latch onto that, and that'll play all these chemicals and actually push you into a trauma and shock cycle. And here's the real kicker. We got internal pain. We got internal pleasures, the dopamine system. And this is the real problem with this kind of thing, is that you can never get enough of what you don't want. And this is why sex addiction never works. Is that you can have 1,500 orgasms in a row, And as soon as the last one stops, my God, you're looking for another one. Because it's not making the pain go away. You know, you're just getting a little blip, you're getting a pleasure hit. But it's not really making all this contortedness inside go away. You're still the same place you were 5 seconds ago. And that's why it's so pathetic. These compulsions, you know, the kicks just keep getting harder to find, as Paul Revere and the Raiders put it. Yeah, that's it, handbag. We're going to talk about dissociation. Yeah. Well, do you want to hear about how you don't want to hear about this? Okay, let's go ahead. You do. Okay. This is what we play in our heads. You know, the stuff we attend to. This is what plays inside. The muscles, they're all pain. Up and down the alimentary canal are little muscles that squeeze and keep it going, so the stuff, you know, like acid reflux doesn't go back up top and keeps it moving down and out. And as you all know, from irritable bowel, acid reflux, projectile vomit, you know, people that have eating disorders, their poor alimentary canal system is just getting a beating. Because they're supposed to be, you know, the stuff's supposed to be going down and out. But half the time it's trying to come back up because, you know, and then the stress and strain on the spine with all of this stuff going on. And finally, if something breaks in there, I mean, you know, if something breaks, so if you've got pain coming from all these things inside and you're trying to play the pain by what you're thinking about. Yes.
You know, if I didn't do that, then you know.
That's yeah. You're correct. The inventory's got to be about the trauma, essentially. Okay, yeah. The inventory's got to be about the trauma.
Thanks for answering my question.
Yes, I'm sorry. That's exactly right. The inventory's got to be about the trauma. Yeah, exactly. You know, technical sobriety. Getting technical sobriety is absolutely wonderful. The minute you get technically sober, you're left with the inside addiction, and that's what you're doing. Yeah.
But it's very important to know that it's a process, and that just because that step is there, you may not be ready to go.
That's right. Yeah.
My therapist asked me to go to make our work go faster, and she said, for the first year, I want you to stay with the first 3 steps. And I said, well, what a waste of time that's going to be. 9.5 years before I did a 4th step.
Yes. Yeah, it may take you a while.
Ready and be able to be helped.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, we get used to that pattern. Yes, we have to know what we're doing to get ourselves stoned. You know, the inside things. Go ahead. Why don't you skip these? Unless you want to see. Yeah. See, this is what we're left with. Hypervigilance.
Yeah.
Hyperreactive. Boy, you know, you hear a twig snap and you're on red alert. Restimulation is in a second. I mean, you know, you're right back in your childhood just so fast you can't believe it. You don't even know what's doing it. You walk into a room and you look at a picture, bam. Okay. And here is the traumatic intrusions. We're always trying to keep the elephants away, and they're always pushing up. That's right. Yeah. In the reliving, we're not remembering. We're so caught up in the restimulation of it, we don't even know what we're doing. Yeah. Yes, it doesn't matter. If they're doing the job to get you high and keep you not remembering, they've done their job. The overreaction is part of the dosing. That's how you get high, is you overreact, and you're so stoned by the time that adrenaline floods through you, you don't even know up from down. And it's done its job.
But in relationships, it just creates more of a negative.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll get to it. Go ahead. We can't see what we're doing. We're so distorted when we're drunk inside. And boy, as our spirits crush. See, this is all about the kid. The kid is so dejected about being in that learned helplessness thing, not being able to get out of it. And the tense body, we're just walking around like this.
So Marty, on that last slide, if you could go back to what you see right there is the mind, the spirit,
There you go. There's the mind, the spirit, and the body. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Okay. Now here we get to it. This is how you do it. If the daily worries and anxieties don't get you stoned and unconscious, then you drop down to the next layer. This is essentially how you dose the internal chemicals. If a phobia, an obsession, a fantasy, a dream, or a taboo doesn't get it, then we'll give you a peek of a flashback. And boy, that'll get you back on guard and unconscious real fast. And the damnedest thing is that the inventory is about how to safely get to that and get it up and out so it's not driving you anymore. But you got to work your way through these, and your tongue. These are the tongues, you see. All these things are the tongues. And there is no end to what we will do to distract from knowing what the stuff that made us drove us away from reality. It just goes on and on and on. We need our translators. Tropisms are little critters, little bitty one-cell little animals. They only go towards something and away from something. They go towards light, towards gravity, chemicals, electrical current. They just go back and forth. That's all the little things know to do. But here, when you're caught in this to and fro thing, this is where the people come in. This is not just the inside stuff. This is what we do, is that when there's two people mutually making each other insane, they're both objects of addiction for each other. I need to get high, well, let me go fight with so-and-so. Well, we can always tussle about this. And that's two, a dyad. So you're mad. The next one is to add a third kid. You say a little baby, you get a little child. Boy, that's in the mix now, and the poor little kid's in the middle of all this. And so all three are crazier than loons. And of course, the more the merrier. More kids come along from the next door neighbor, Uncle so-and-so. You add that in the mix. So between your dosing of your phobias, your obsessions, and your nightmares, and this stuff, and your outside chemicals, if all else fails, go get a drink. You were so drunk that you can't even see straight. And that's what we have to withdraw from. Yeah.
I didn't understand the tropism.
I did go fast. The tropisms is that, again, one of our brothers in the experimental labs, he found out that this little caterpillar, that when the butterfly lays the eggs on a plant, it's heliotropic right after it's hatched. It'll go up to the light. And that's because the leaves that the animal, the little caterpillar eats, is up to the top of the plant. When they get through eating up there for a while, they're no longer heliotropic, so they go down to where the lower leaves are on the plant. So the little thing, just go up and down and eat all the plant, basically. Well, what this guy did was he took a caterpillar and put him in a little test tube with the leaves on one end of the test tube and the sunlight coming from the window on the other. The animals, the caterpillar starved to death. And so, if we're caught in this mutual addiction, who to go to? Which one should I go towards? It should I go away? Is it safe to go now towards so and so? Should I hide? Just these very basic comings and goings. It catches you in a double bind. It just it's insufferable. And that's where that trauma experience happens. The little kid just like this, and then finally the nervous system shuts him down, and that's what happens. Okay. Yes.
On that mutual addiction,
Uh-huh.
that keeps a lot of marriages or relationships together, doesn't it?
Absolutely. You're my one and only addiction object, What do you mean a divorce? You're not going. It's sad. But that's how we dose the stuff. So, denial is the ultimate disease. And it's denial, we don't want to look at the real stuff, so we'll look at anything but. And we don't want the feelings. We do anything we can to make the feelings go away. So the ultimate disease is denialism.
What's the difference between denial and repression?
Here we are. Over there, that's the stuff that's available to consciousness. And we all, there's tons of things. I could ask any one of you anything, and you could tell me tons of things you remember and know. You could just go on for days, hours, months, years, and there's lots of stuff you know in your head. There's also stuff not you don't know, but I could bring it to your mind right now. I could ask you all, what did you have for dinner last night? So what was unavailable to consciousness would just flip right over. That's called preconscious. It's right there. And a lot of the stuff that happens to these trauma experiences is that right in the middle there's an amnestic barrier. And the stuff is always trying to push on over into consciousness, and that's the vase and the faces. Well, yeah.
What makes that flashback become a memory? Like what, she can flashback, but they aren't really memories. But then you can get a memory based on the flashback.
The flashbacks are memories. They're so potent that you can't stand to look at them full face.
I guess what makes them more fuller and fuller, because they can't
Consciousness.
Oh, okay.
And see, what happens is that repression is right here. We will push like crazy. This other stuff can flip back and forth, and some bad memories might come over, but that flashback material, and that's what we're trying to do is in the inventory process is get the flashback stuff up into consciousness without wrecking the machine, essentially. And that's why the biopsychic inventory is a new level of thinking, is that if we start to look at this stuff, and as you said, you have to be so careful. You can't be, and this is what so many people go to therapy. They, squeeze on me, push on me, let's do all this kind of stuff. My God, you're re-traumatizing the hell out of yourself. This stuff starts to merge up, trying to get up there to consciousness, and everything in you is going, the little kid inside, hell no, I'm not coming out. And you're squishing down like that. So that essentially is re-trauma. You go to the masseuse to get a re-trauma episode. You come out of there completely, you're groggy, you're shell-shocked. You say, I feel better. Well, yeah, you do, because the endorphins are flowing all over you. I mean, you're so gone. And this is why it has to be so careful to get this stuff. I mean, you have to pay attention to the inner child, because tronic and spits, that's what we're talking about. That's the level of the inventory that we're talking about. Yeah.
I understand all this, but as somebody else mentioned the word blindsided, and as having been somebody who was completely blindsided by past experience, and I wasn't in the program at that point, it's difficult for me in this to understand how one can recover what one doesn't know, or what is the process.
Oh, the trick is you actually do know it.
You do know it.
Yes, you do know it, but you are doing everything. You're keeping, this is the Annie Lennox method, Sweet dreams are made of these. Everybody wants to use you, everybody wants to be abused by you. Is that if we're caught up in these mutual addiction dyads, if we're dumping chemicals down us, guess what? This flashback stuff that's trying to work its way up to the top, it doesn't have a chance in hell. And so if you made it, if one more time it almost popped into your consciousness and you made it go away, then you've just strengthened the defense. And you've got to settle down. You've got to be able to let the feelings come. Okay, how much time do we have left? 15. Gee, I tried to cram too much in here, but I wanted to cover it. But go ahead, Jim. I'll get to that. These are your possibilities to tangle with other people. This is how these... There's a fourth possibility, that what we're talking about today. Get some sobriety, emotional sobriety. Stop flipping around the drama triangle. Okay. And move to integrity. If you can be all the sober side of the self, completely conscious, you're over there in integrity. Okay. Now, here you go, folks. this is essentially what happens. Is this is what we don't talk about, and this is what the inventory will be about. This is the cycle of violence right here. These are the things that we don't talk about, we don't acknowledge. For every victim, like the female victim, you're obviously a victim. If you've been raped, you've been hit, you've been beat up. I mean, those are real things that actually did happen. What's not talked about is that you're angry as hell. Part of you. And it leaks. And you victimize other people. You may not mean to, and you may feel terrible that you do. But that stuff has got to go somewhere. And we don't do a righteous inventory all the time, so guess what happens? It either loops back on ourselves, or it goes at somebody else. You know, those rats in that celluloid doll. I mean, man, it's got to go someplace. What the hell you'll do? Where does it go? Yeah, and that's what your question was. Yeah. Let me go through this here. The next one is the male victim. You know, we're supposed to be men, or, well, screw that. I mean, you know. The overt victim, and the same holds true here for males as well. This is one that more and more in the news now. It used to be, well, no woman would do that. Well, yes, they will. You know, I'm promoting us to equal opportunity. You know, the word gender. You know, equal opportunity abusers. So, the overt victim, and man, a woman drowned her daughter, her children. How gruesome that is! But, oh my God, to wind up doing something like that, you know, she's you know, these are all your trauma trials. You know, how many, when the trauma trials add up over a lifetime, and then the male victim, and here's the male victimizer. Yes, there's willfulness, and God, when somebody abuses a child, and it's sexual abuse, you want to put them up against the wall and shoot them. And, you know, the people who abused me as a child, I did want to put them up against the wall. I tried as a little kid. I couldn't get away with it. But, and so you're the overt victim. And you're the covert victimizer. And go ahead. Oh, back that one up. So today, what I want to tell you is that with all the roles that we talk about, the hero, the scapegoat, and all of that kind of thing, the one role that we're not talking about is the apprentice. Before we're anything else, we're watching this and going, which one am I going to be? Or maybe I'll be all of them at different times. You know, even with gender confusion, what the heck, you could be all four of those. Okay. And so essentially what happens is what we wind up is that we're so rushing, we're getting high, doing what we can to get loaded and get in a rush, or we're crashing half the time. The feeling zone in the middle, we just wave at it as we go past. You know, we know we want to be there, but why in the hell can't we stay there? Well, you're addicted. I mean, you know, you're addicted to the negative excitement. You can't stay still. Okay, yeah. And here's what the problem is the upper brain. You know, what we're doing today here is new learning. I'm teaching you things. You're saying, oh, that's stupid. I want to go to sleep. Oh, that's the greatest thing I ever heard of. Whatever, you know, you're having your reactions. That's called declarative learning. And but guess what? If somebody came in here and started yelling, your what we were talking about today would go right out the window, and you'd go right back to what you did as a kid. Some of you would go like this. Some of you go, who the hell do you think you are? I mean, you know, you'd fall right down into the habit. And this stuff is in the midbrain, and it's not in the upper brain, and that's where you got to dig it out. It can be reached, but not easy. It'll come out, but not easily. And the other thing, the back hardwired brain, if it had enough of your habits and it's had enough of your declarative learning and all this stuff we're talking about today, it'll just put you into shock and say, the heck with it, I'm taking you offline. And as a little child, how many times we went offline, we don't remember. Okay. You know, I think we're going to have to stop right now because we're running out of time. But we got 10 minutes. This is to answer your question. I worked with a woman named Marge Tooman. An article's in the back of our handout there. And she died in 2005. But Marge taught me a lot. She used biofeedback as a guide. And I've seen this many times, is that what Marge found out was that biofeedback, like sweat gland activity and skin temperature, when someone is starting to talk about stuff that's really, you can see that the trauma abuse is coming up, a lot of times their skin will go dry and their temperature will go high. So you'll have warm, dry hands. And that's what a relaxed person has. But if you look at the person, you see that person is completely, really upset. The muscles are all tense. She'd call that going 90 miles an hour with the brake on. We're just trying to hold back the system from tearing apart. And so what we need to do is a controlled emergence of the hurt and the vulnerable and the frightened and the damaged self. And there's two therapeutic ideals that I came up with, and one is no tension except tonus. There's no it's what one therapist called the healthy protesting infant. You know how a little baby, a relaxed little baby, you just put it on your shoulder and it'll just lay there? There's no extra tension. It'll just drape right to your shoulders. We're not like that, or most of us are not like that. We are like this at some level. And the other thing is that no arousal except is it real or is it Memorex? And so you can guide your inventory process by looking, am I getting more and more relaxed like a little baby? Or am I getting to where I know the difference between the stuff in my head, the phobias, the tongue, all of that stuff. And so as you proceed through the inventory process, just keep looking at yourself and seeing if that's happening. And if you're sitting there and saying, I'm fine and I did a complete inventory and everything is wonderful, and you're tense and your mind's going crazy with all this, this stuff, you got more work to do. Okay, is there any final things? Yes.
I was a few minutes late. Is this essentially covered in your book, or do you have a book on this? It's covered in the handout, and there is an appendix to the handbook called "Looking Back to Look Forward," and all of this is pretty much in it. It's on the when you get the handbook, it's the first appendix. Yes.
Can you clarify the two-tiered model? In the title said two-tiered
Yes,
model.
the two-tiered model is that the outside substances which most addiction has been about. When we hear addiction, most everybody thinks about drug abuse, alcohol. That comes on line 11, 12. I mean, they're starting younger and younger, but essentially, you don't come out of the womb drinking a bottle or sniffing glue or snorting through a straw. This inside stuff is well established long before you ever get to the point of where you start. All the outside drugs do is just kick it up a little higher. And the one thing you can do with an outside drug you can't do internally is you can OD. But aside from that, it's pretty much the same. So the whole point is to pay attention to the fact that you're internally intoxicated. We're internal drug abusers. The thing is stay conscious of what you're doing. The whole thing is that our unconscious is automatic and it keeps us stoned. So keep, whatever you do, whatever workshop you go to, whatever 12-step meeting you go to, keep a handhold in reality, because that's where we're trying to get. And if stuff is pulling you back and sucking you under, stop, regroup. Yes. No, it's in the back of the gym. I'll get to you. Yeah. Yeah.
Is our body trying to regulate us?
Yes.
Is it trying to
It's trying, ever since that little baby, looking at his fist. The body is trying like crazy to get okay again. And we're, with all this pathological attraction, the paralysis, we're overruling it each and every time. The body says, I want to relax, I want to calm down, I want to be okay, I don't want to get stoned today. And your upper mind, your habit mind is saying, oh yes you do. I mean, you can't afford to relax, you'll get clobbered. Come up with 1,000 reasons. And the body the whole time is saying, geez, I just want to calm down. I want to get right, I want to get back to the pre-trauma state of the healthy protesting infant. I want to be open again. Happy, joyous, and free, and then our addicted mind says, "Oh, that's not possible." It tries to say, "My God, you don't need to go fight with somebody. You don't need to yell and scream today. You don't need to get up at all hours of the night and day and do things, to stay spaced out." It's trying like crazy. The inner child is trying like crazy to get here. Your body is the key. You can always know, if you can't get to the stuff in your head, you can always soothe and comfort your body. You can always go to it and just say, there, it's okay, calm down, you can breathe, you can lower your shoulders down. You can, and the one thing that we can't do in an alcoholic home is go off guard. You see, that's the one big taboo, is don't you dare go off guard. It could be curtains for you. And we need to say, no, we can go off guard, we can do it safely in an inventory process, and we can actually get better. Yeah, Jim.
I'd like to thank you for as painful as...
Let me get, thank you, though. Jim? Yeah, I'm Tom, I'm sorry. I'm Tom. That's right, you did it right there. You were traumatized and you went unconscious. And probably each and every time somebody yells in that tone of voice or tells you to do something, you don't know it, but you go right back to it. And your body is telling you that you're going right back to it. You can watch, I watch biofeedback on people. They say, oh, everything's fine. You can tell, man, every reaction is saying, no, it's not okay, I'm not fine. Exactly. Yeah, then you do the things that actually make things better. Not the old definition of insanity. You don't keep doing the same thing expecting a different outcome. You do different things and get a different outcome. That makes the next steps possible. Oh, the higher power guides you, at least for me. And it's the child, it's the dejection. You see, we're demoralized as children. What we need isn't actually a demoral inventory. It's what did the things that happened that demoralized us. And that's these trauma things. So you have to do a demoral inventory, simply just find out what it was. And then you can do a moral inventory. Was I right? Was I wrong? Was I good? Was I bad? Was I smart? Was I stupid? Those kind of questions. But first of all, you just have to find the history of it. Habits have a history, and the history matters. And that's, oh, you're welcome. You're quite welcome. Okay, thank you so much. I'm sorry I tried to cram a lot in here. I do apologize. I just wanted you to get the fact that it's time to move into the next frontier. And emotional sobriety is the next frontier. And thank you so much, and thank you for letting me be of service, and have a good conference.
Thank you.